글 같은 거 배우면 그만이고 욕을 해도 좋고 도둑질도 해도 좋은데 나한테 거짓말만 하지 마. 알았니? 예, 아가씨.
I have seen this film be described as a psychological thriller, a romantic drama, and a softcore porn. Personally, I think The Handmaiden is a complex, surprising, and extremely well-written, shot and edited piece of cinema. Watching it for the first time is an absolutely unique and incredible experience. So if you haven't, please go do that before watching this video, and decide what box to put this in if you can find one.
Spoilers.
The Handmaiden, or Agassi, is a 2016 cross-cultural adaptation based on the 2002 novel Fingersmith, an historical crime by Sarah Waters set in Victorian Britain. The title and cover art of the book are often alluded to in the film through its focus on Miss Hideko's gloves, which she wears constantly when hiding her true intentions and only takes off in rare moments of honesty and intimacy. The setting of the film has been changed to 1930s Korea under Japanese colonial rule, but director Park Chan-wook follows the novel's plot, keeping its three-part structure as well as the sexually explicit elements of the story and the underlying feminist themes, using them to explore his own. In particular, a recurring theme in Park Chan-wook's work is the dichotomy of appearance versus reality, what is presented as the truth and what actually is true. This film is a great example of that. No one is who they appear to be. Fujiwara is a Korean conman posing as a Japanese count, hoping to trick Hideko into marrying him to gain her money and most of all her social position. Uncle Kozuki aspires to be a Japanese nobleman, but he is really a Korean traitor, completely controlled by his own lust and greed, manifested in his obsession with rare books, which are later revealed to be erotic literature. He forces his niece, as he did her aunt before her, to read and perform these stories for an audience of wealthy men whom he then sells the books to. So Hideko as well is not the innocent lady we are introduced to in the first part of the film. Neither is Sook-hee, seemingly a naive handmaiden, actually an arguably naive con artist, unaware she is being conned herself. Which brings us to the main way in which the Handmaiden explores its central theme, through the perception of women, particularly men's prejudices against them, often solely based on appearance. Fujiwara assumes he can trick Hideko into marrying him, but he's forced to change his plans once he meets her and realizes she's not the helpless maiden he thought he would find.
하지만 만나자마자 알았죠. 어떤 남자도 당신을 유혹하기는.
불가능하죠.
He then recruits Sook-hee under the guise of working together to deceive Hideko with the intention of betraying her. But Fujiwara underestimates them both, failing to see Sook-hee's intelligence and Hideko's humanity, and ends up falling victim of the same ploy he planned to use against them. Park Chan-wook plays on preconceptions, common and timely not only in 1930s Korea, where the film is set, but in today's society as well. The men in the story believe they are smart and powerful, and expect women to be innocent, naive, and, if it suits their desires, sensual. But what makes the film work so well is, we do too. We, the audience, do not expect Sook-hee to be a con artist. We definitely do not expect Hideko to be an erotic reader for her uncle, and to have been trained for that from a young age. And we do not expect two women to choose to work together and to love each other, rather than fall into the arms of a man.
소키야, 내가 걱정돼. 난 네가 걱정돼.
The director confronts us with our own distorted and conditioned worldview that leads us to expect women to be weak and deceivable, which makes it all the more effective when they are revealed to be clever and strong. Another way in which The Handmaiden manages to subvert our expectations is through masterful editing, pacing, and storytelling. In part 1 of the film, we are told a pretty straightforward story. A young girl from the Korean lower class is hired as the handmaiden of a rich Japanese lady, and she must find a way to adapt to her new life and position. We soon discover the girl is actually a hustler, working with a fake account to help him marry the lady of the house and lock her away in a mental institution to steal her fortune. But the first big twist comes almost halfway through the film, when we discover Sook-hee was the one being tricked, and from this point on the true genius of this film's editing and storytelling is shown. This is also where the plot takes a different direction from the original novel, choosing to focus more on the two lead characters' relationship. For the consecutive hour and a half, we are told the same story, but through different eyes. We learn of Hideko's traumatic childhood, her uncle's abuses, her aunt's death and the true reasons behind it. We find out how and why she agreed to work with the Count, and we see the development of her relationship with Sook-hee from her perspective. If in part 1 she was only a victim, she is now the predator. This dynamic continues in part 3, where Hideko finally learns to use sex to her advantage, when for her whole life it has been used against her, but where sex controls Uncle Kozuki and all the other men who attend his readings, Hideko, through her own relationship with Sook-hee, learns to control it. Even Fujiwara, who believed himself better than the rich man he wanted to con, succumbs to the same basic desires. Distracting him with the promise of sex, Hideko poisons him with the very same opium he gifted her to escape her uncle's tortures, which Fujiwara ends up enduring himself.
その贈り物に挑戦がでお伝えくださいませ. 미안하지만 현실 세계엔 억지로 하는 관계에서 쾌락을 느끼는 여자는 없다고.
The men in the film, and arguably in the director's portrayal in our society, seem so obsessed with sex, the power it holds over them ends up being their own downfall. Women, on the other hand, so used to being seen and treated as objects, learn to finally free themselves of the male gaze and use it to their own advantage. By being honest with each other, showing their true selves and intentions, Sook-hee and Hideko break the cycle of lies and manipulation, dropping the veil of appearance and truly seeing each other and saving each other from their own loneliness.
속은 건 너야. 정신병원엔 네가 들어가는 거라고. 미안해하진 않을게. 너도 날 등쳐먹으려고 했으니까.
Sook-hee, a motherless thief chosen by the Count because he deemed her disposable, as nobody would miss her, and Hideko, a prisoner in her own home, her depraved uncle's puppet, on the verge of suicide to escape a hopeless future. Together, letting go of prejudice and deception, they finally find real freedom and unconditional love.
겨울이면 훔친 가죽 지갑들을 엮어 외투를 만들었다는 유명한 여도둑겠다. 저 자신도 도둑, 소매치기, 사기꾼. 내 인생을 망치러 온 나의 구원자, 나의 타마코, 나의 숙기.